Hey everybody, I'm Linda Bennett, your spiritual counselor and psychic host for Metaphysically Speaking. Welcome! You can find us, and you already have, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You type in metaspeak.com. Sometimes you can type in Metaphysically Speaking, which is the name of the show that I started many, many years ago. And you will find metaspeak.com. You will find me, and we have the current shows, we've got radio shows, we've got old shows from a long time ago that people are remembering that they called in on and they had their question answered. So because that was a live show, this is obviously not live. I wish we could do it live, but we can't take your questions directly unless we prearrange. So if you're interested in calling in during a show, you need to contact us via email at metaspeak.com, or you can call my office at 727-736-4567. And don't ask me if your Aunt Matilda is happy in the heavens, because I'm sure she is. But this would be topics that you would like to see me cover, questions that you have about metaphysics, anything you'd like to know about the universe. Now, I'm being shown Linda Bennett. Oh, I'm Linda Bennett. I thought I said I'm Linda Bennett.
You're metaphysical psychic host.
So I am Linda Bennett, and the little furry thing that you'll see jump up here shortly will be Princess Gracious Gracie. And we cover all kinds of topics. Metaphysically Speaking was a name given to me many years ago in meditation. I was invited to do a program for a station, and they said, well, come up with a title. Sat down, meditated, and Metaphysically Speaking came to me. I had a lot of arguments from people who said, nobody will ever remember the name, but everybody remembers the name. Some people forget my name, but they remember metaphysicallyspeaking.com. Now, metaphysical was decided and described by Aristotle as the unseen world. Speaking would take the unseen and bring it to the physical world so that we can all understand. So that's why I called it Metaphysically Speaking. So that means everything is involved: spirituality, religions, philosophy, theosophy, politics especially, because what kind of people are we putting in power? What's going on around the world? World events, health, all kinds of issues. So we've got lots of topics to discuss, including a UFO reminder. And I've got some books that I want to recommend to you. You will enjoy them. And this is going to be open metaphysical questions because we've got a lot of different topics to cover. Now, we were talking about, do you want to make this a half-hour show? Do you want to make it an hour show? Do you want to break it up into segments? I think for the time being, we're going to take the hour show and tape the hour. And you can break it up yourself. You can watch it for 15, 20 minutes, come back to it, whatever. A lot of my people who used to watch my show regularly have called me and said, oh, Linda, I watched or found you. I finally found you. And they say to me that they sit down and they watch the show. You don't have to watch the show if you don't have an hour. You can break it up in your own segments. It doesn't matter. But wait till I finish a segment, because then you're going to forget what I said before. So do it segment by segment if you want to do that. Okay, let me recommend the two books before I forget anything. They're by David Michie, and they're novels. They're novels based upon reality. And David Michie is, I presume, a Buddhist. You don't have to be Buddhist to read these. I guarantee you most of the people reading these books are not Buddhists. But the first one, and you must read them in order because the second one won't make sense unless you've read the first one. The Dalai Lama's Cat by David Michie. The Dalai Lama's Cat, and read it with a highlighter, because you're going to want to go back to certain places and make sure that they're important to you and that you have remembered something that maybe you would forget. And that was a squeak back there in the background. The second one is The Dalai Lama's Cat, The Art of Purring, also by David Michie. Are we getting this in the frame? Okay, good. And the Dalai Lama has a Himalayan right now, and I have a picture of him with the cat he had back in the 80s, which was a silver Persian tabby, which is what I used to have once upon a time, twice upon a time, my Smarty and my Miss Cuddles. So please read these books. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them from your local bookstore, and I promise you, they're fast reads, but then you think, as several people have said to me, they didn't want the book to end, so they sort of dragged it out, and then they went back and read it again. They're happy books. They're books that bring you a lot of wisdom in a simple, calm way, written, of course, by the Dalai Lama's Cat. So the Dalai Lama's Cat is the first one. The Dalai Lama's Cat, The Art of Purring, the second one. And actually, we're doing our private classes coming Thursday on these two books. And I know you will enjoy them. Even if you say, Linda, I'm an atheist. I don't care. The cat's telling an important story. How do you like that? You didn't know cats could author books, did you? Okay. Do I need to see anything you're writing furiously away?
You're in
Okay.
great shape.
Okay. Now, last time, I was trying desperately to remember the name of a show that I wanted you to see. It's the Unsealed Alien Files show. I don't remember if it's on Discovery 2, History 2, A&E Bio. I don't remember. Just find it. It's not on History. They don't run it on History first. But I kept thinking that the word started with B. That was the subtitle. And I kept thinking bibliothèque. Now, if you've never taken French, you don't know what bibliothèque means. It means library, it means storage of information, it means a place of information and culture. So I finally saw the show again last night. It's not called bibliothèque, it's called encyclopedia, which of course would fit into the bibliothèque. So it's Alien Files, Unsealed Alien Files, UFOs. And the subtitle is Encyclopedia Blue Planet Project Book. So if you just remember encyclopedia, why is this show important? Well, we're not going to do UFOs right today. And the reason is my nephew may be coming down, and he himself, as well as I have had a variety of UFO experiences. And in fact, he had a UFO experience with one of his friends years ago. And this is talking about Dulce, New Mexico, where a huge base is out there, and it's at least 7 levels underground. And it seems to be run by the UFO people or relatives from other planets, because remember, this is not your only lifetime. You don't die and disappear. You don't die and go to heaven or hell. You cross over. I'm saying you die with your physical body, but your soul never dies. And you review whatever you did in this lifetime, what's right, what's wrong, what do you have to tweak, what do you have to fix, what do you have to do over. And so we've lived on other planets, just like you've lived in other states, maybe other continents. We've got friends from Canada, Australia, England. So this is really a compilation of information about different people from different planets. And apparently there's an entire book of definitions of the different types of alien people. The physical description, their titles for themselves, and one of the, and what their mission is, and whether they're friendly or unfriendly, because apparently we have some unfriendly people. And somebody said to me recently, well, why would we have unfriendly people? The planet attracts to it the level of people that exist here. We have some fabulous, kind, loving people. We have some sort of kind, loving people. We've got some downright nut jobs. We've got some crazy, cruel individuals. So you attract what you are. And so therefore we have some fabulous individuals. They're called the Nordics, and I have seen those people. I've had experiences with those people. Apparently they're very tall, very pale, and they're very spiritual. They're very wise in politics. They are very wise in how to run things and make things better. And then they have all different types of gray people, little short ones, mid-range, taller ones. They have people who, and when I saw people on a ship that I was astral projected onto many years ago, there were people who breathed through their skin. Every pore was like a little baby lung. They have those people. And each level of the underground facility is dedicated to something else. Some of it is dedicated for strictly medical reasons. They fix humans. They adjust certain things. If having cancer would inhibit your ability to complete your reincarnative cycle, they'll take care of that for you. If you're having reproductive issues, they'll take care of that. Other facility areas are dedicated towards reproduction, whether you're going to reproduce with a husband or a wife, whether you're going to reproduce with a relative from another or a friend from another planet. And we've covered this. The reason they're not looking to take over Earth, although if they did, I wouldn't blame them. Environmental catastrophes are happening all over. And so if I were in charge, I would say these humans are incompetent and cruel. They don't realize that they're living on a planet that isn't theirs. I always say we're just renting the place and we're making a mess out of it. But it gives different description as to what is going on. And there are levels that are complete research facilities on animals, on humans, and it's not just for their benefit, it's for our benefit. Because as I've seen in many dreams and astral projections, and when I was aboard a UFO, the planet, we already know that the sea levels are rising. Rick Scott, the governor of Florida, laughingly called governor of Florida, has denied that there's anything called global warming when we already know we've lost 10 inches average off the beaches and the water level has risen. So I feel that if he says, well, yes, there is global warming, we have to do something about it, then he and his cronies have to stop, trying to fill in the Everglades, etc., and then people won't come to Florida. Well, people will come to Florida for quite some time because it happens to be a lovely state. If you like the tropics, it's a beautiful place to be. The Gulf of Mexico is lovely. I love the Atlantic Ocean. I grew up on the Atlantic Ocean. And so there are many advantages to visiting here. But greedy people do greedy things. And if I were the people from other galaxies evaluating what's going on this planet, I'd be taken over. But they're looking to make sure that people here can survive. We already have a different oxygen-carbon dioxide balance than we had, say, 50 years ago, and it's not for the best. So the show is titled Unsealed Alien Files, Encyclopedia Project, Blue Planet Project Book. And just remember bibliothèque and think what the heck does bibliothèque means, and one of the things it means is encyclopedia, area of knowledge. So that's an extremely important show to catch. Okay, taking care of that. I wanted to read something that Ray Bradbury had said. Many of you know that he was a famous sci-fi author. And one of the things he was quoted as saying, "I'm not afraid of machines. I don't think the robots are taking over. I think the men who play with toys have taken over. And if we don't take the toys out of their hands, we're fools." Think about that. If we don't take the toys out of their hands, we're fools. Because there's a problem with people who keep asking, what if I do this? What if I push that? What if I push that? What if I push that? What if I push it? Oh, it fell. What if I push this? What if I put... They don't have any boundaries. And when you're dealing with people who have no boundaries, we're in trouble. Okay, this is Linda Bennett with Metaphysically Speaking. And you can find us on the web. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'll have to tell you something cute. And if you type in metaspeak.com, you will find me. You'll see old shows, radio shows, current shows. I was watching one of the Oprah Where Are They Now? And she had 50 Cent on, whose real name is Curtis, and I don't remember his last name. And he's gotten a bad reputation, but apparently in real life he's a little sweetie pie. And he has a cat and he has a dog. And Oprah and Gail were there, and they were interviewing him in his house. And she said, so, meanwhile she already knew the answer, she said, so, what's the cat's name? He says, Oprah. And so she said, and what's the dog's name? Gail. And he said, and Oprah has a Twitter account. Oprah's on Twitter. And she twitters regularly. He takes pictures of his cats and his dogs, his dog, cat and his dog, and he calls them Oprah and Gail, and Oprah and Gail have a Twitter account. So they were hysterical laughing. And I thought, there's a guy who's projected this whole horrible image. I would like him to project loving images and maybe change his persona. But I thought, that's hysterical. Oprah and Gail have Twitter accounts with Curtis. Okay. Oh, quickly. ARP magazine. When you move into this community, it doesn't matter if you're 15 or 50 or 500, you're now a member of ARP magazine. You get 2 years free subscription. And this is a very important article in the current, does it say what month? The current issue, well, it came out in April, about heart trouble. And more women than men die of heart trouble because we ignore the symptoms, and we have completely different symptoms from men. Men have the pain in the chest, sometimes the pain in the arm. Oh my God, I'm going to die, take me to the hospital. Women get a twinge. We think we have indigestion. Sometimes men think they have indigestion as well. We get a little pain in the neck. We get pain in the jaw. We get pain running down the arms. We get a feeling of mal de mer, which is not feeling too well. Oh, this is Princess Gracious Gracie trying to play with mommy. Mal de tête is headache. You can get headache, you can get neck ache. And then women think, oh, I was scrubbing the floor, probably pulled a muscle. And so by the time we get to the hospital, we have massive heart damage. That's why more women than men die of heart problems. And they also discuss the fact that most doctors are totally, completely, their heads in the sand. We've known this now for several years. And I guess the doctors don't read any updates in their magazines because this information has been out there for a while. But this one woman went to 10 doctors. 10 doctors who told her, you're fine. I was told that too with several illnesses. Oh, no such thing, and you're fine. Well, I wasn't fine. So women have to go to the emergency room and scream long and loud, I'm having a heart attack. And they have to pay attention. And it talks about different diagnostic tools. You can go online at the current ARP and look, it says heart attacks for men and women. I pulled out the male section, and I put it somewhere else, but I have the female section here. And the other thing that happens is men tend to have blockages in their large vessels. Women tend to have blockages in a lot of small vessels. That's why we can get a lot of pains here and there in different places and not think that it's a heart attack. But by the time we get to the hospital, it's a whole area around the heart that's destroyed. You're tickling me. It's a whole area around the heart that's destroyed. So please, people, and it's not enough just to go in once a year. It's nice to go in once a year. And just like President Lyndon Johnson got a clear diagnosis of you're perfectly healthy, and 2 days later he drops dead of a heart attack. They know more now, but they're not applying it. And all of the testing has been done on men, by men, for men. And very little testing has been done on women. They spend over $600 million a year on research for breast cancer, but 173, I think it was, for heart disease, and more women die of heart disease than men. Here's a way that you can make your life better. No smoking, drinking, drugs, and don't eat meat. That's going to help you immeasurably. But you can still be a vegetarian. They talk about a woman who is a vegetarian who meditated and was into exercise, and she had a heart attack. Genetically, if that's your issue, you're going to have a heart attack. But if you're up on it and you're doing things like being a vegetarian and not drinking, smoking, drugs, you're going to have fewer problems and they're going to be less intense. So please, you can't function without a heart. You can do without a pinky, you can do without a few other body parts, but a heart you really need. So please, please take care of yourselves. All right, Gracie, what do you want? You want one on my lap? What do you want? These are not real candles, by the way. My little audience here and my executive producer and my videographer and our general assistant, are you being fresh? Wanted me to remind you these are not real candles. So she often jumps up on the table when she's in the mood and she wants to be the center of attention. I almost burned my house down years ago on Christmas. I think I've told you this before, but it bears repeating because I am terrified of fire. And I heard, wake up. And it was Pele, who is the goddess of fire on the planet. She has saved me from more fires in this house. I could do a show on the fires that have almost happened in this house and where I was almost seriously burned. And I flew from the bedroom all the way down the hall into the living room, and right on the television, there was a little tiny candle holder, smaller than this. I no longer have it because I threw it out. And I had blown out the candle the night before. In fact, I used a candle Sniffer, that's right. Snuffer or sniffer?
Snuffer.
Sniffer. And I had used a candle sniffer, and then I dabbed it and made sure it was that. But I didn't take out the previous little wicks, the little metal wicks that hold the little fabric wick up in the air. And once upon a time, we had a lot of candles from China that were restarting fires. And obviously I had one. And my kitty, Sweetie Pie, was in the kitchen because it was her last couple of weeks. And she couldn't climb on the bed, and I had her in the kitchen. And I had real eucalyptus on top of the television console area. And the candle was literally this far away. The flame was shooting up in the air. It was a little tiny candle. Nothing was in it anymore. It had burned out. But this flame was feeding from the lead. And it was about this far from the real eucalyptus. And if you don't know, eucalyptus is filled with oil. And when they have those huge fires in southern Australia, the Blue Mountains, they're called blue because of the oils that the eucalyptus trees give off. They explode. So I would have had a giant explosion in my house. I grabbed it, which burned my hand. Doesn't matter. Threw it on the floor, poured water on it. Clip, clip, clip. I fixed the carpet. The hand took a couple of weeks, but I saved my house, and I saved my life, and I saved my cat. There have been no and never will be any candles back in my house. I have all kinds of lanterns. I don't know if I have one here that I can reach over and get. No, it's down the hallway because we had a power failure recently. And you can get these lanterns from the home shopping channels, and they have LEDs, and they'll be bright and safe. So please, people, you might think it's romantic to have real candles for dinner. Not if it goes on fire. Okay, now, how are we doing on time? Oh, goody, we've got time. I'm going to take a little sip of water. This is not the one that squeaks. Very dear friend gave me one of these. First time I used it, all I heard was squeak. So I called her up on the phone, and that's all she could hear on the phone. I said, that's what you just gave me. She said, why don't you use it for class? I said, I've been forgetting to tell you. That's why I don't use it. Squeak. So this is my old one. This is a lovely letter from... Who is this from? Of course, it's written...
I think it's Kristen.
Yep, it's Kristen, and some of it is in pink, on pink paper. Now, the person here sitting here, my executive producer, has always been furious at me for using fuchsia pen on...
I'm not, that's not me.
Who?
That was a previous acquaintance of yours.
Who? Oh, really?
I'm a full embrace.
Well, here it is. Pink ink on pink paper. I at least used red or fuchsia ink. So this is from Kristen, and she's asking about Hinduism because I promised you I would do a show on Hinduism, which could take 10 hours, but I'll cut it down. And the expression of born again. Then she wants to know about astral projection during sleep. I'm not sure we will get to that point. Oh, but before we do Hinduism, which is going to take a little time, our dear friend Patty lost her pussycat, Willow, Mr. Willow, who was 20 years old and 6 months. And he was dumped on her. A former client of mine opened Patty's door and threw the kitten in and took off. So this cat was not wanted, not properly cared for until Patty got her. And I think she was about, Mr. Willow was like six weeks old, something like that. And he died of old age, and he had a little stroke, and I think he gave them 2 weeks to get used to the idea. Patty and her friend, also one of my students, Doug, took amazing care of him with subcutaneous hydration. They brought him to an acupuncturist that specializes in animals. She is a vet, and gave him tremendous ability to move around again. But you know what's interesting? People think animals don't have souls. They do. If you have a pet at home, you know your animal has a soul. And after Willow's first acupuncture treatment, when he could stand up, he couldn't stand up. When he could stand up, he was really happy, and he tried to get to his pan, and he moved a certain way, and the leg gave out from under him. Patty said the expression on his face completely changed. And I said, he decided that if he couldn't maintain his dignity, he didn't want to stay here on the planet. And he died shortly after. So she volunteers down at the Clearwater Marine Science Center with the dolphins. You've had one story, now one movie come out, now there's another movie coming out. And there are, one of the oldest dolphin, 40 years old, died recently. And so she's got Winter with the prosthetic tail, and she's got Hope, and she's got Nicholas. And the amazing thing, we all knew about dolphins and dolphin medicine and dolphin energy, and we've seen dolphins out in the Gulf and that kind of thing, as opposed to the young boy who was swimming between two dolphins and waving to his parents, and his parents were screaming and panicked because the lifeguard realized they weren't dolphins, they were sharks. And that was several years ago, and one took a tiny nip out of him, and they both left. I guess they figured, well, get this kid in, you know. But he's awful stupid, so we'll give him a nip to remember the situation, but we won't eat him. Interesting. People think sharks are going to rip you to shreds at every moment. Well, there's two sharks that were accompanying the kid in. He went out too far and he got caught in the riptide.
Would that be karma?
That would be karma. Like I had my shark experience as a kid. That would be karma. But they gave him a tiny little nip. Not a bite, but a tiny little nip. But can you imagine the parents and the lifeguards realizing that these shark fins were shark fins and not dolphins because they weren't going like this, they were swimming like that. And the panic in these people. And this kid swimming happily along. Look, Ma, I've got my friends. And then the sharks realizing he was close enough, and they gave him a little bite, and off they went. And he was so surprised. Animals have souls. Even sharks have souls. So Patty has been talking to me about the fact that every time she goes to the Clearwater Marine Science Center and works with the dolphins, first of all, she does a lot of the cleaning. The regime for making sure everything is constantly kept sanitary is astonishing. All day long, they're sanitizing with special bioorganically created chemicals, because you can't use Fantastic in there, that are safe for the dolphins, the pelicans, the turtles, all kinds of things. So she does the cleaning. Now she's doing she's being taught how to do a little bit of the training, the minor training. And every time she went, even when Willow was sick, she would feel better. And the interesting thing is the dolphins always said hi to her, and they say hi to people they really like over there, and there are people they completely ignore. And the day she went over after Willow died, I think he had died like on a Wednesday, and she was over there on Saturday. The dolphins were waiting for her at the tank like this. They were all waiting for her and all staring at her. And she felt such a rush of energy come right through the tank. Like this tremendous compassion, this tremendous surrounding her with love and energy, because they know what's going on. They and all animals see in pictures. Dolphins have huge brains, and we have huge brains, and not all of it is going to be tracked by science because it deals with psychic energy. It deals with our soul. So there has to be space for that because that's the thinking part of the soul. Our bodies have a soul that's larger than the physical body. But the thinking part of it is in that mess they can't figure out what to do with, in dolphins and monkeys and cats and dogs and whales and all kinds of other creatures. Even ants have a thinking process. You think an ant? Yes, ants have a thinking process. They have done tests where they see that ants change their minds, change a concept, redo something that they had started to create and realize it's not going to work. So she wanted me to let you know that you can get energy from all creatures. You can get fabulous blessings if you just allow it to happen. I've noticed, we have crows around here. Have you noticed they're the size of whales practically? They might even be ravens. I don't know. They're huge. They're gigantic. And they love to sit on top of that big red cedar. And the top of the cedar is going back and forth because the bird is so gigantic. It's the size of, they're the size of hawks. And it seems whenever I'm out doing my gardening, and I have a beautiful garden, and lots of flowering bushes. I've planted very well. For someone who's not from Florida, not bad. And I'm out there and I'm talking to myself and I'm thinking to myself and I'm talking to God and the angels and asking about this or that and what should I do and how can I handle this. I notice that most of the time, one of these ravens or giant crows caws and lands on top of the, if I'm in the front, lands on top of that cedar. If I'm in the back, they land on the portocarpuses. And they start talking to me like this, caw, oh, caw, oh, caw. Not the big caw calling their friends or announcing that I'm here, but this quiet little chit-chat. And I always stop and I pay attention. And then I feel this energy grid coming from this huge bird. It's just like a blue tunnel. Sometimes it's like a golden peach tunnel. But I always have some kind of answer or some kind of idea. And the other day, I was thinking, there's a rabbit around here. Now, I have very pesky bunnies. I have half the yard covered with ground cover jasmine because grass doesn't grow well down here. And the other half would be covered by ground covered jasmine. But we have a problem with bunnies because I have a light post with another type of jasmine and they have made a little bunny hutch under there. So it's very convenient for them to pop out and munch on the freshly planted jasmine because if there's a predator, boom, they hop right back under. I have now put cages on those jasmine plants 3 times. They're still there. And I've decided I'm going to leave them for quite some time and then cut them off because I'd like to have the rest of my lawn covered.
So you're caging the jasmine, not the bunnies.
I'm caging the jasmine, of course, not the bunnies. The bunnies are free to roam and make little bunny houses and little bunny holes, which I trip in if I don't see them because they have an entryway and they have an exit. And I found another exit the other day. Do you know how I found it? I slipped into it. So with an electric hedge clipper. So I was thinking about bunnies and I was thinking about something very upsetting. And all of a sudden, this bunny, hippity hop, very soft hippity hop. You know how they can fly. Zoom, they're gone. Hippity hop right out in front of me on the front walkway. I said, that's a fat bunny. I think that's a mommy bunny. Going to have baby bunnies very shortly. I'm leaving those jasmine covered. And then the bunny turned around, hopped and turned around and looked at me. And I said, okay. Because bunny medicine is have no fear. Things are taking place. Things are working along as they should. If you have the medicine cards and you have the medicine card book, that's a wonderful thing to get. You can add special critters that are yours. In fact, you know what, Siobhan, if you would go over there and look on that table and see if there's a card with snow leopards on it, that would be, oh, I put it on the table, right. Snow leopards are one of my favorite critters. And they're very spiritual to me. And I did work with, thank you very much, I did work with a snow leopard years ago when I volunteered for rehab, rescue and rehab group. And a very, very sick snow leopard came in. The vet made them sign a release in case the leopard died, which they anticipated. However, with special care and special love and chakra balancing and special diet, we revived Snowy back to full life.
And there's snow leopards behind you in that picture too.
Oh, right behind me, the babies, right behind me. And so snow leopards are very precious to me. And they and cheetahs do not attack humans. And people will tell you that walking through the Himalayas in the winter and the snow, they can barely see where they're going, and they feel something brush up against them and it's furry. Or they follow tracks, and they're snow leopard tracks. They've never been attacked. So they're having trouble in Africa because a lot of natives are getting dogs to protect their sheep, which don't belong in Africa. And they're destroying the undergrowth, and they're destroying the ground cover. And they get the dogs, but they don't give the dogs any rabies shots or any distemper shots. And cheetah are very friendly creatures. And they'll play with the dogs, and the dogs will bite them because now they've got rabies or now they've got distemper. And then the cheetahs get distemper. And there have been a couple of attacks against people, but only when the animals are already infected. Here's a card that was sent to me by Karen, and it's got the mommy snow leopard with the 3 baby snow leopards. So I wanted to share that with you. And you can add if snow leopard is special to you, if tiger is special to you, if monkey is special to you, you can add that on the blank cards with the medicine cards. They have, I think, what, 50 or 60 cards already filled in with animals and descriptions, but you can add your own. So if you have the opportunity and you're feeling really grieved and you don't want to talk to people, you don't want to hear one more idiot say, it'll pass. Everything passes. Eventually you die. Then that passes and you're back in life, in physical life. So everything passes. Go where you know that there are animals who are compassionate, animals who you have a rapport with. And Patty is certainly getting a lot of healing energy from the dolphins, and she always thanks them. You know, it's not enough, and I always thank that giant bird up there and the bunny. I thank the bunny, and when I thank the bunny, and I felt this little clear energy between us, and then when I thanked the bunny, then when he just cocked its little head and then turned around and hopped away and zoomed right under his little jasmine area where he has a little bunny, where she has a little bunny hutch. Lesson: give your problems and share them. Just don't dump them on the dolphins or dump them on the monkeys or dump them on whatever, or your own cat or dog, because your cat or dog knows what your thoughts are. They read thoughts, they see pictures, they see energy. Thank them for loving you. Thank them for giving you their blessing, because we all share the same planet. And Patty also said something interesting. She feels distant dolphin energy from the ocean, because you think these dolphins are all injured. Winter doesn't have a tail. She has the prosthetic. One was hit by a motorboat and is too damaged to be released. And I forget what Nicholas's problem is. Oh, I think he was born without a fin or something. Anyway, they're giving us the gift of their presence. The tanks that they're in are not the ocean. They're used to swimming thousands of miles a year. So when you consider that they are in these small restricted areas, as clean and immaculate and well taken care of and loved as they are, they're not in the ocean. And they are giving us the gift of their presence. If you have the gift of bunnies, of squirrels, the UPS guy came the other day. He's a substitute because Ernie's on vacation. He said, this is like a wildlife sanctuary. We've got squirrels, we've got birds, we've got a rooster. He said, do you know you have a raccoon back there? I said, I haven't seen him recently, but I know there's a raccoon. He said, that's a fat raccoon. Are you feeding him? I said, no. I said, I'm sure he's gathering his own food. Thank the animals, just like you thank a friend who is kind to you. Thank the animals. We all share the same planet. We have the same mind thought. Keep in mind that we share 85% of the same type of DNA as bacteria. And why would that be? Well, when you're going to inhabit a physical planet, there has to be DNA that allows you to function on that planet. Whether you're a bacteria, whether you're a dolphin, whether you're a snow leopard, a pussycat, or a person. So we all have to have DNA that is similar in nature so that we can survive here. Okay, let's talk about Hinduism. There is so much twaddle out there about what Hinduism is. It's not worshiping a bunch of different gods. It's worshiping different personality traits of the one energy. Big difference. You know the tree of life? If you don't know the tree of life, think of a giant oak tree with the leaves and the stem and the roots down in the ground. Flip it upside down. The roots are in the heavens. The origination of the tree, the origination of life in the heavens, coming down with lots of different branches, lots of different twigs, lots of different leaves covering the whole area, but all coming from the same God force. So Hinduism originated because people said, God is so complex. You can't just say it's Jesus. You can't just say it's Allah. You can't just say it's a tree. If you're a Wiccan, you know that you worship God through nature. Well, it's more than that. I've been on planets that were mostly fluorite, but in the valleys they were so fertile and beautiful with trees because there was soil. But the mountains themselves were mostly made out of fluorite, which was incredibly beautiful, but not very fertile. This is a gifted planet. We have all types of terrain where we can grow all types of foods and vegetables and can support all types of life. We're busy paving it over, which we're already sorry for. But Hinduism says the God force is so complex and we have so many lifetimes to live. Why don't we, in each lifetime, focus on one particular personality aspect of God? Now, before you say, oh, what do you mean personality aspects of God? Describe yourself. Do you have a sense of humor? Are you kind? Are you loving? Are you gracious? Are you funny? Are you helpful? Do you have good health? Maybe your health isn't so good, but your personality is good. Are you smart? Are you creative? Are you a leader? Are you a good follower? Are you a participant in your community? Do you help others? Do you help others in need? Are you there during an emergency to help? I mean, I've described at least 20 things. Those are just personality traits. How tall are you? What color is your hair? What is your weight? Do you have any physical difficulties? Are you in perfect health? Bless your heart. So if I've just described 30 traits, and I'm not even trying, I'm not even thinking, sit down and make a list of yourself. Describe yourself. It's not going to be like an annoying job interview when some fool sits back and says, so tell me about yourself. Oh, God, how nauseating. Make a list of all the qualities to describe you physically, emotionally, spiritually, things that you'd like to do. Are you good at soccer? Are you a great gardener? Are you wonderful with animals? Are you good with children? Are you a great swimmer? Everybody should learn how to swim. I don't care if you're from the Midwest. Do you know why? Because you can have a flood. And if you don't know how to swim, you're going to drown. That should be an exercise in every single school PE, physical education class. Okay, so Hinduism says we will learn about different personality traits through different aspects of God. I have a tiny little elephant here, but I don't know if I have that big statue over there. Ganesha is represented by an elephant, and the general statue that entails Ganesha is an elephant head on a man's body. And Ganesha represents removing obstacles. There's nothing like an elephant to be able to remove a big tree. Removing obstacles in your life that are blocking you from your highest achievements, from your goals. But Ganesha also does something else. Ganesha will push a tree in your way to make you stop short and say, whoa, okay, Ganesha just knocked that tree down. Why? Well, maybe there's a traffic accident up ahead. Maybe there's a snowstorm and the road is not in great shape. Maybe you're headed for disaster because you haven't thought this whole situation out. There is also the monkey aspect where they worship the monkey god Hanuman. And he has an ape face with a human body. And that represents the beings that came to the planet in physical form first to be able to make sure that we could adapt to the carbon dioxide oxygen balance. And that species of person was here to make that happen. Often you will see ancient gods and goddesses, quote unquote, with little g's in Hinduism, with blue skin. And that represents a time when we had less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. You want me to say this is Linda Bennett of Metaphysically Speaking. You found us on metaspeak.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And just type in Metaspeak or Metaphysically Speaking and you'll pop up with the show. So their concept is, I can't know everything about all of God's personality aspects, all of God's ability to love, all of God's ability to create and recreate and destroy what's necessary and to recreate it into something better. So I'm going to focus each lifetime on something different. It doesn't mean they worship monkeys. It doesn't mean they worship snakes. It doesn't mean that they worship elephants. Although if you live in India, an elephant is a happy thing to have around if you're into any kind of work. It means that they understand that God is in everything. Gracie, that God is in every single aspect of life. It's a thought. That racket is being created by my cat. Sorry. It's a thought process. Everything that exists comes from the mind of the God source. And God is not some great big guy up there with a robe and a long beard. We can't completely describe God except to know that it's a moving, fluid, tangible concept of thought and creativity and kindness and graciousness and eternal existence. I always say I don't want to know who God is, I want to know who created God and how did that happen and where did that come from. You don't have to knock yourself out. And then I want to get to the aspect of Kali. I should have taken the picture of Kali down off my altar. She's the one that's generally shown with her tongue sticking out and these skeletons around her neck as a necklace, and she's got her foot on some bad guy's throat where she's choking him to death. There are three aspects of creation: creativity, preservation, destruction. Then after the destruction and the storm dies down, the birds come out, start chirping, the sun is out, new buds are forming on the trees, new crops are coming up, and that's the recreation. Then the preservation. But in preservation, people tend to make a lot of bad decisions, and that deteriorates the quality of life. And then it gets so deteriorated that the God force says, enough already, done, gone. And so Kali, who is the female aspect, it's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, Parvati, Durga, Kali. There is the male-female aspect in Hinduism. They know God isn't some old guy, and they know God isn't some old woman. They know God, as I've said to you before, female, male, one God. Female aspect, male aspect, one God. So she is shown as a terrifying force to remind people to stay on course, to become and remain and improve your life. Otherwise, you're going to be part of the destruction of it. So she's not there to scare you. She's there to show you the reality. We've had 4 different cycles, and now the Navajos and the Pueblos and the Hopi Indians are saying we're coming into the 5th and final cycle. A lot of things are going wrong on this planet, but it's part of the cleansing process. It's part of the rebalancing of the karmic process. You're thinking, oh, such horrible things are taking place. This is so awful. These things have taken place for a very long time. But we didn't have 60 Minutes, and we didn't have CNN, and we didn't have Al Jazeera. By the way, shockingly, Al Jazeera is a really good news network. Yes, it's from Qatar or Qatar, however they say it, Qatar I think they say, but a lot of U.S. reporters have signed on and are doing great reporting. I don't have to listen to the prerequisite blonde and the prerequisite guy of color arguing with each other over what somebody really means. They just said what they really meant in the news report. I don't need you to reinterpret it for me from your political standpoint. Al Jazeera doesn't have that. They give you the news from the location. They have people all around the world. It's what CNN almost was, and I wish we'd get back to again. BBC America is another really good source because you're seeing the United States through the eyes of other countries, and it ain't as sugar-coated. They're not interested in what ball player just made a major win for the team. They're not interested in silly nonsense. They're interested in world events. And when you watch these channels, Al Jazeera, BBC America, and CNN, you get a better perspective of what other countries think of the United States, what they think the mission of the United States is, and are they for it or against it. fabulous news coverage. You can't just read one newspaper. So Hinduism is about the understanding that God is so complex and so ununderstandable that they can focus on one personality trait a lifetime. It's not about taking the place of. It's about, I have a pinky, I have a nail, I have another finger, I've got a nail, I've got all the cells that make up the nail and the finger and the liver and the heart, and we're made of billions and billions and billions and billions of cells, just in our physical bodies. There are more astral cells in our souls. Untold, uncountable. So why should God be any less complex than you or me or my cat, wherever she went? God is fathomably more complex than we are. The whole, in this case, is part of the sum. The sum is part of the whole, and much larger than we can conceive. Now, there are Sikhs, and they're the ones who use or wear the preform most of the time turbans, very nicely turned and very nicely, what would you call it, adjusted or wrapped, okay? And after 9/11, anybody wearing any kind of headgear was immediately thought of as a terrorist. And they are Indians, Hindus, who say, we want to get away from the different personality aspects, and we want to go to just to the one concept of love and devotion and kindness. They're still Hindus, but they have the one God concept. That is their thought form. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing right with that. It just is. They want to make things simpler. In my mind, it's making things more difficult. But in their thought process for this lifetime, they wanted to make things easier to understand for the average person. And I have a dear, dear friend whose dad was one of the founders of the Sikh temple in Flushing, New York. And he was a devout Sikh and loved God, and he married an Irish Catholic girl. They had a fabulous marriage, and I have a very special friend from that relationship. And she has the concept of Catholicism, and she has the concept of Hinduism, and she has the concept of Sikhism. So she's got a cornucopia of understandings. But she also understands, as a yogi, as am I, that we're all from the same source. We're all from the same breath. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. And don't tell me that God is dog spelled backwards, because that's just simply silly, and that's in English. We actually cannot even pronounce the concept for God. Ancient Judaism comes close in their male and their female aspecting of God. Tetragrammaton is the ancient sacred name of the male aspect of God. Semaporish is the name sacred of the female aspect of God. There's numerology involved. There's all kinds of concepts that are involved in this. But does it matter? No. I told a story last time of the three little island dwellers, the ancient men, who the Hindu bishop was informed that they needed spiritual counseling. And he said, it's a schlep, it's out in the middle of the ocean. What am I going to do there? No, 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 we must go out there. And so he took the boat, took the ship, off they went, found the island. Oh, they're raggedy old men with all scraggly beards and little loincloths. And he spent weeks training them and teaching them prayers and teaching them meditations and teaching them all kinds of mantras and all about Hinduism and all about the God force and nature and blah, blah, blah. And he said, now do you finally get it? Oh, yes, we're so grateful that you came here. We're so grateful that you took the time to come all this way to tell us all about the God force. He said, okay, well, I'm going. I'm on my way. Sayonara. Off he went. And one night on a long trip, and he was thinking to himself, what have I done? I've wasted my time. These old guys don't really know anything. And the captain said, we're getting these strange lights out there in the ocean. And he said, what strange lights? And look, we've looked at these lights, and they're moving. And they seem to be moving towards us. And so everybody's on deck, and they're looking, and these lights are dancing across the ocean, and off they come, and off they closer, 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 boom, right on top of the ship. And it's the three old men. And they're shocked. And they said, oh, high priest, we're so embarrassed. We can't remember the names of the gods that you gave us. We can't, all we can think of is the same thing we've been saying for years. We and God are one. So he was chastised, and he said, oh, you can't study from me. I have to study from you. So the lesson to that is, don't worry about titles. Don't worry about special prayers. Don't worry about 3 Our Fathers, 3 Hail Marys, a good act of contrition. Don't worry about snapping the red band on your arm. Worry about being a good soul. Worry about understanding that the God force is larger than we are, and our souls are part of that God force. We're connected like long strands of chewing gum to that God force. The physical body is temporary. I'm going to take these clothes off and change and do another show. Still me. Exactly the same person. You're exactly the same person when you cross over. And hopefully, with your review of your life, you'll get an opportunity to see the problems and the discrepancies and the things you could have done better and the things you have to fix next time. You see the lessons that are lined up and how things are going to work out and the people you're going to be with. And you're going to say, I am so grateful for the opportunity to be closer to the God force and closer to going home so I don't have to reincarnate anymore, and closer to going home so I don't have to be in the astral world anymore. I'll be in the causal world, and then I'll be, boom, back into that giant root structure of the tree of life, because everything originates from God. And remember, if you will just open up your hearts and minds to God's universal truth, you're going to know that God and the angels are always with you. Stay with us.